Let's talk about your IDE, because here in 2026, it's not just a text editor anymore. It's become something else entirely, an autonomous teammate. And in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what that means for you as a developer and how you can navigate this wild new world of agentic AI coding.
Look, this isn't just some marketing slogan. It's the reality on the ground. For years, our tools were passive. They helped us, sure, but they waited for us to do something. Now, they're active collaborators. The difference is like having a really good spell checker versus having a sharp junior dev sitting right there with you, ready to pick up a whole task and run with it. It's a fundamental shift.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with what this new kind of teammate even is. Then we'll get into what makes an IDE agentic. We'll survey the tool landscape, the good, the bad, the specialized. We'll cover the new rules of the road for writing code, how to actually pick one of these things, and finally, what all this means for your job as a developer.
Okay, let's dive in. This jump from assistant to agent, it's not just a new buzzword, trust me. It's a total change in how you work, moving from just getting little suggestions to actually delegating entire chunks of your work.
The evolution is pretty stark when you lay it out like this. In the past, with assistants, it was all chat windows and autocomplete. You asked a question, you got an answer. It was reactive. Now, with agents, you're delegating a goal. They don't just wait for you. They proactively plan and execute tasks. So instead of just completing a line of code, they're running entire multi-step workflows. And, this is huge, they're not stuck in your editor anymore. They have access to your terminal, your browser, your entire file system. They can actually do things.
Now, this is showing up in our toolchains in two main ways. First, you've got the plugins, right? Think GitHub Copilot or JetBrains AI. They're incredibly powerful additions to the classic IDEs we all know and love, like VS Code. Here, the AI is kind of like a guest in the house, but then you have the second flavor, AI-native IDEs, tools like Cursor. These are built from the ground up around the AI agent. The agent isn't a feature, it's the foundation, and that allows for way deeper, more context-aware actions across your entire project.
Okay, so we keep using this word agentic. What does it actually mean in practice? What are the capabilities that make a tool truly agentic? Let's get into it.
First, and maybe most importantly, is task decomposition. So instead of you saying add a profile page and it just vomiting 1,000 lines of code at you, a real agentic IDE stops. It thinks. It breaks that high-level goal down into a concrete, step-by-step plan. This is the thinking before acting that separates it from the older tools. It's the foundation for any complex, reliable work.
And because it can plan, it can pull off some incredible feats, like genuine multi-file refactoring. You know the drill. You need to change an API endpoint. Manually, that's a nightmare. You're running grep. Crossing your fingers, you find every single call site. An agent, though, it can understand the whole dependency graph and execute that change across dozens of files, front end, back end, in one single coordinated move. It's a lifesaver.
These agents can also handle what we call long-running workflows. This is a game changer. You can literally delegate a whole chain of commands like run the database migration, then seed it with test data, and then kick off the end-to-end test suite and just turn it loose. The agent will work on it in the background, freeing you up to actually think about the next hard problem.
Now, you're probably thinking, how can I trust a tool to do all that? And that's the right question. The answer, and this is absolutely critical, is visibility. To trust an agent, you have to see its homework. These new tools generate what we call artifacts, things like the plan itself, a summary of proposed changes. Some even create a screen recording of the agent using a browser. This transparency is everything. It lets you review the logic before any code gets committed, which is how you maintain control and quality.
Okay, so we get the concepts, but what tools can you actually download and use right now? The market is, well, it's crowded. So let's cut through the noise and look at the key players and what really makes each one tick.
Let's run through the big names. You've got tools like Cursor and SWE, which are just built for pure speed. They're amazing for startups or anyone who needs to prototype and move incredibly fast. Then you have the other end of the spectrum with enterprise-grade tools like AWS Kiro. That's all about structured, spec-driven development where maintainability and governance are king. And then you have the specialists. Google's anti-gravity is a beast for web-heavy tasks because it can literally control a browser. Windsurf is your go-to for automation if you're deep in the OpenAI world, and Claude Code is an absolute powerhouse for those deep, complex refactors that live in the terminal.
And of course, there are plenty of others. GitHub Copilot is still the industry standard for a reason, and its new workspace feature is pushing it hard into agent territory. If you live in a JetBrains IDE, their AI integration is second to none.
Replit is your answer for cloud-native, zero-setup collaboration. And then you have these wild tools like Bolt that are trying to spin up entire full-stack apps from a single prompt.
To really work with these tools, you've got to learn the new lingo. There are a few key concepts that are totally changing how we talk about building software. Let's start with the big one you've probably heard about, vibe coding.
So vibe coding is exactly what it sounds like. You're not writing a detailed spec. You're guiding the AI with a vibe, a high-level, natural language prompt to get a feature working fast. It is an unbelievably powerful way to build prototypes, to explore an idea, to just get a first draft on the screen in minutes instead of hours.
But, and this is a huge but, it comes with some serious risks. Vibe coding is a fantastic way to rack up technical debt if you're not careful, because the AI can write some really verbose code. It can introduce security flaws if you aren't guiding it. It can lead to architectural spaghetti if every feature is built in its own little vibe-driven silo. And honestly, for junior devs, relying on it too much can weaken those fundamental skills. Vibe coding is for the first draft, not the final product.
So, with all that in mind, how in the world do you pick the right tool? The one for you or for your team? Let's get down to some practical advice.
The most important question is, what's your context? An indie dev or a startup, their main goal is speed, pure and simple. They're going to embrace vibe coding with tools like Cursor to iterate as quickly as humanly and AI-ly possible. But in enterprise, they're playing a different game. They care about maintainability, security, compliance. They'll lean towards a more structured, spec-driven approach with something like AWS Key0. The trade-off is right there. You're either choosing high autonomy and high speed, which comes with higher risk, or you're choosing more control and safety, which means a slower start.
Now, you're going to see benchmarks everywhere. Things like SWE-bench are great. They measure how well an agent can solve real GitHub issues. And that's useful. But please don't get obsessed with the leaderboard. The underlying AI model inside the tool is just as important. For a really tricky architectural problem, you might want a model like Claude that's known for its deep reasoning, even if another model is technically faster at smashing small bugs. The key is to match the model's strength to your specific task.
Okay, you're ready to try one out? How do you do it without setting your project on fire? Just follow these 4 steps. 1. Start small. Use it on a brand new project or a non-critical feature. Don't test it on your production auth service. 2. And this is the most important rule. Always review the plan. That is your moment to steer the AI before it writes a single line of bad code. 3. Verify. Don't just trust. Use your test suite to prove the agent's work is correct. It will make mistakes. And finally, number 4. Remember that you are still the engineer. You own the code quality, the architecture, and the security. Period.
All of this points to a really fundamental change in our role as developers. We're slowly but surely shifting from being the person who writes every single line of code to being the person who directs an intelligent system that does a lot of the writing for us.
Let me just say that again, because it's the core takeaway here. Your day-to-day job is becoming less about the tactical, line-by-line typing and much more about the strategic work. Defining the problem, setting the direction, reviewing the output, and integrating all the pieces into a solid, cohesive product.
Now, this doesn't make our skills obsolete. Not at all. It actually elevates them. Your ability to think through system design and architecture, that's more important than ever, because you have to give the agent a good blueprint. Your ability to craft a clear prompt and provide the right context, that directly impacts the quality you get back. And your critical thinking during code review, your ability to write good tests, that's what makes you the final quality gate. Those human skills are now at a premium.
So, as we wrap up, the real question isn't just about what tool you're going to use. It's bigger than that. As your IDE truly becomes your new teammate, how are you going to change the way you work and the way you lead? It's a lot to think about, but this new reality of software development is here. It's time to dive in.